very good morning. Today we will have another online lecture on the subject of corporate communication. And today we will be talking about chapter 8, which is media relations. So under this topic, yeah, we will more or less like having an understanding how actually journalists and media organizations work together. So roles and values of new journalists or media organizations, and also discuss the importance of new coverage for corporate reputation. And we are also going to explore use and effectiveness of specific media relation techniques, strategies around new media, Web 2.0, and digital communication platform. So communicating with media is essential to corporate communications. This is something where we cannot avoid, and we have to, especially at this time, to have communication, yeah, through media. Uh, for example, like social media, company web page, and also mass media. So working with the media is a typical understanding of corporate communications, yeah, and it is can be categorized as printed one, yeah, where we actually have a newsletter, bulletin, you know, or in the newspaper, and also the second one is about broadcast. Broadcast is through a televisions, for example, like online TV. So mainstream TV or private TV, international channel, and so forth. And the third one is about online media. So online media, we can have, for example, like either we put it in the writing or in a video. Like for example, we have like online TV, we have like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So we can post our what we call that newsletter or our video, our briefing, dialogue, and so forth. So, journalism and new organization. Journalists is actually consult the sources and write news stories. So this is the role or the functions of the journalist, yeah, where they are the one who actually seek for a story or news or headlines, and then they will write a story on behalf of the organizations. And the second one is news organizations or copy editors. Yeah, and these people actually like a an editors. They edit stories before they print, depending on news routines. And news often reflects ideology or politics of journalists or editors or media organizations. Yeah. So, journalist mindset or journalist way of thinking also might reflect the way they write the story. Yeah. So normally, only the journalists that have similar kind of understanding or thinking with the organization, they might go and seek for the story, and they are able to write better because it is within their area of interest. And they are also able to amplify the effect of media coverage, where they add on some spices, some, you know, we call that the proficiency in writing. They add the flavor while they are actually write the story. So it create an interest, or it attract people to read, and also maybe like to share and spread the stories. Yeah. So media relation actually provides an important conduit to the public because it generates publicity, yeah, and also provide business coverage that influence stakeholders. So that is the reasons why organizations need to establish a very good media relations, so that they will always be seen as relevant and something what we call that exist in the society or community, and the public are able to search for their location and their role and function, as well as uh, assist and help when they need uh, the company. And journalists have limited control. They do not decide actually final printed story, because final printed story actually in the hand of the editor. First paragraph, which may change depending on whether it is a business sections or public interest story, and layout and design of story, and images used, headline chosen, and fact checkers employed. So all this actually will be finalized by the editor. Yeah. And ideology and influence matters, like New York Post is about editors' paper, Washington Post is about reporters' paper, Guardian is about middle ground, liberal to left-wing political, BBC is about focuses on consumers rather than employee perspective. Or we can say like in Malaysia, we can have like Berita Harian and Harian Metro. So we know that Berita Harian is the prime channel of the government, like Utusan Malaysia. But Harian Metro is more talking about the what we call that, sensation news, something which catchy and something, out of norm. So people are interested to read Harian Metro because of the what we call special story and interesting story within that. Or we can say Haraka is meant for the opposition party to channel their ideology and so forth. Yeah. And amplification is about media coverage that can have an amplifying effect on a company's reputation when good and bad news is reported. So the impacts of the reputation through highlighting issues, the way they project the issues, they highlight the issues, and increasingly already determine views about an organization. Agenda setting theory is about how often the media reports on a public or political issue determines issues' resilience in minds of public. And there are two levels of agenda setting, which is first salience of an organization, and second one is attributes or association related to an organization in terms of facts, neutral observation, feeling through stance and tone, what we call that, of the organization. So all this normally when an organization would like the journalists, yeah, or their media, the personal media, creating a story on highlighting certain issue within the organization, they have their own agenda. So when they set this agenda, so it means to, I mean, what we call that, explain or expose the uniqueness of the organization, the strength of the organization, for example, and the significance of the organization. So they will look into the facts, neutral observations, and feeling through stance and tone of the organizations. So by highlighting all this information, so with a catchy words and attractive story, so people may pay attention, and it may give a better reputation and also coverage of the organization. So how agendas are formed? When we say that it is agenda setting theory, so new organization watchdog role means that they have to systematically report on news across the company and across all type of organization. So first of all, we look into what are the information they will gather from the watchdog. So from there, they know what's actually the strategy, where to move, and how to actually project their company better to gain attentions of the public. So they can't wholly perform this role because of a lack of information on smaller companies and the lack of visibility of this organization. So they have to look at the current trend, the current strategy, and what is relevant at this current moment. So then they will strategize themselves and project the right point, the right information the right content so that they will be able to boost up their company, and they will be able to get better, we call that response from the public as well as the attentions of the public. So agenda building is where an organization can have a major influence of the media agenda, and it is done through information subsidized such as news conferences, press releases, and campaign. This is how they build an agenda. So look at this diagram. We can see the agenda differences. Yeah, for example, like journalists often dislike corporate communication professional because they are not focused on issues of public interest. They are not always objective, and they what we call that withhold information. And corporate communication professionals are eager to work with the journalists and are less negative about them because of they have they have framed the because they have framed based on the ideology of the news organization, and they may frame news about the company in line with their news routines, and journalists have their own agenda. So however, despite these differences, they are interdependent. As much as 80% of news report about companies are prompted and delivered by the corporate communication professional. As we said earlier, in this era, instead of having CEO, CFO, COO, now they have like triple CEO. This is a chief corporate communication officer, where these people or this department will have full responsible in build or establishing relationship with the media, as well as to supply or feed information about feed the news about the organization to the journalists, and to ensure it will be what we call that reported and published, so that what they want, what they want to be known by the public, and whatever agenda they have set for the organization will be publicly available, and people will start putting their own kind of perception, as well as their own opinion, comments, and critics of the informations. And this is how actually they raise the image and as well as the popularity of the organization. Now let's look at a framing. A framing can be understood as how an organization would like to have its story told. So corporate communications professional must make journalists interested in the story, ensure that the story is consistent with the organization's preferred framing. So this is again where an organizations have to, like beside they want their story to be published, they need also to contribute to the sales of the what news or newspaper or bulletin of that organizations. So they have to work together, hand in hand, for example, helping each other. Beside they are able to publish the story, they also able to help the what we call that organization in selling their, for example, magazine, newspapers, and so forth. Yeah, and by having the story within that. And then there are tools for disseminating information, for example, like press release, press conference, and interview. And they are tools used for media monitoring and research, for example, gatekeeping research, output analysis, syndicated media monitoring services. Yeah, so these are the tools that can be used to actually disseminate knowledge, and they are tools for media monitoring and research. Yeah, so other than that, it's about online newsroom. Online newsroom allows the company to get its content out in a format that is searchable by and easily accessible to journalists. So this is again where you might want to publish your information in your page, web page. You want to e-news, yeah, and also, for example, like in your company bulletin or in the industry bulletin and so forth. and you will provide the keywords of the news in for example, like you use Google search, yeah. So when when all the news have the keywords, yeah. So then when you go to Google search and you search for the keywords, and then they will redirect you to the relevant news and relevant information with regard to the organizations and whatever news with regard to your key search, your keyword search, yeah. So this is again, yeah, where by having, like establishing your relationship with the new media or media company, so you are able to direct other people to, to read, to know about your organization and the news about your organization by having a good communication, so, or a good relationship with the media. So that's all, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for chapter 8, and I hope that you are able to follow through this chapter and hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye bye. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good evening.